Well, praise the Lord, and praise the Lord, everybody. Welcome to night 21. We are celebrating yours truly's birthday and her book release of Decennium Decisions, making decisions that establish, shape, transform, and impact the world. Listen, I don't know about you all, but God has been faithful every night. He has been a blessing. He has showed up. Amen. I told you that tonight was a special night, that tonight was a very important night to me because of who I have on and the fact that we are about to get about, at least $500,000 worth of information. Just because God likes me and has allowed someone who I consider my mentor in business and in branding. This is a woman of God that has made an impact. And I know that, she is not necessarily a preacher, but she is a woman of God in her own right. This woman has made an impact in my life, first from afar, as far back as 2011, when I was on the waiting list to be her friend on Facebook for like 8 months. Okay. And then when she finally accepted my friend request, I was like, I hit the lottery that day. But she is someone who I admired for years. Before I even get into that, look, you see how excited I am. I just want to say thank you all for being here every single night, for sharing, for giving, just for, just celebrating with me. I am getting more and more excited the more that the closer my birthday gets, which is next week, Thursday. And so, actually, no, it's next week, Friday. My birthday is on Friday, next week, Friday. So I'm just very happy, and I'm just ecstatic that each and every one of you have thought it not robbery to be on here with me every night, even if it's by playback the next day. Listen, was last night not amazing? Listen, Bishop Desmond Loho out of Brooklyn, New York, wore us out. He didn't take any prisoners last night. So I think that today is a day that we can rest from the spiritual, the super spiritual side of things, to get into some matters of practicality, especially those of us who we know that God has called us to be influencers, those who we know have called us to a duality in our profession and in our vocation, as well as what it is that we have been called to from a spiritual perspective. And so I could not think of a better person to help us to marry those two worlds and to make them seamless, and to just give us wisdom so that we don't be out here wrong and tacky with Microsoft flyers and selfies and our picture all over stuff that it don't need to be all over. This is the woman who taught me all of those things. Before I read her bio, I want to read something that if you've ever been to my home, you know that right over my desk, I have a few pictures, and one of them is a saying. And the saying is the one that I got from this woman. It says here, and this is the status that I wrote, reiterating it back in 2017. I wrote, vision. Before you brand, make sure you're not bound, because it will blind you to the truth of what God has created you to do. In the wise words of Cheryl Pullins, your personal life will eventually show up in your business. Whether it be good or bad, it will indeed make an appearance. And the thing that I put in the hashtag is, don't brand while bound. And she chimed in and she wrote, amen, no branding while bleeding. One thing that I have been assured of, and one thing that I can testify to on every level, is that whenever something happens in my personal life, somehow, some way, it makes an appearance on the other side. That is the non-personal, monetary side of my life. And I've matured to a place where it is not as, I guess, overexposed as it once was. But the reality of the matter is, whether it be good or whether it be bad, it is something that is going to show up in your life. I just want to give you a little background on her before we get started tonight. And her amazing bio says, Cheryl Pullins is a lipstick-loving, movie-obsessed, personal branding strategist to multi-passionate women who desire profit from their passion. Somebody say, God is not against profit. He's not against profit. And take their brand from generic to iconic. Cheryl has a diverse list of accomplishments, including a 20-plus year corporate career as a human resource professional, founder of a successful publishing company that published a woman's magazine and 2 book projects that created more than 50 published women authors in less than 2 years. Cheryl is not only an iconic brand strategist, but she also uses her voice and her expertise as an award-winning international speaker, TEDx, and if y'all know what TED Talks are, just put some hand claps in the comment section for a sister that's actually making it to that stage. TEDx speaker, author, certified life coach, which means she ain't just in her back room. She actually got some weight on her, who has served as a mentor for the London-based Cherie Blair Foundation for Women in Business. However, even with all of that, her main passion and focus is helping women to discover their icon factor by intentionally, confidently, and unapologetically stepping into the highest version of who they were created to be for such a time as this. Listen, can you do what we do around here? Send those hearts up, send those hand claps up, put them in the comment section, and help me to welcome Miss Cheryl A. Pullins, icon extraordinaire. How are you tonight?
I am a fabulous Dr. OJ. How are you? How are you?
I am doing amazing. I am so happy. They can tell you that I have been kind of, excited and waiting on tonight. You are someone that, you mean so much to me in so many different ways. And I just thank you, first of all, for just agreeing to celebrate with me this month and just for being here with and for us tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure. What an honor it is to be included in the number. To be a part of celebrating you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Well, I ask every speaker this question, as we open up, and that is, you've had an opportunity to read the advanced exordium to the book Decennium Decisions, and I just wanted to know, what do you think? What stood out to you, or what are your thoughts and feelings on what you've read so far?
Listen. That's a powerful piece of work right there. And that was just from the portion that I read. And anytime I take out my notebooks and start taking notes, it's something going on, So I made a couple like pieces of commentary, like time is a commodity given in equal parts. That jumped out. And also like the quicksand. I was like, I know what that feels like. Yeah. Then hiding myself in the visions of other people, no longer believing that my vision was viable. Ooh. I could relate to that. So there were all of these like moments that I was like, wow, I was just looking at my notes, seeing if it was anything else, but those were some of the things that jumped out at me. And I'm like, this is a powerful piece of work here. And it will transform lives if people do what you put in that book. I know it with every fiber of my being.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to jump right in because I don't want to waste not a minute of time. Listen, so many of us that are on here. Well, first, I want to make a poll tonight. How many of you all are on here and that know that God has called you to what people call marketplace ministry? Or how many of you are called to just business as a whole in this time and in this season? If you are, just put the little hand up sign, say, yeah, I'm called to it. I know that it is something that is my passion. And the reason that I want you to do that is because one of the things that we recognize from a psychological perspective is that we first have to acknowledge things, okay? And the one thing that I want to make okay tonight is that it is okay to desire to profit off of what it is that God has placed in you. One of the things that I think we have been mistaught for so long in the body of Christ, and especially as women, that we are, we have a place that we're supposed to stay in, and that we are really supposed to be doing everything as unto the Lord. Everything, is supposed to be as unto the Lord, and you're not supposed to receive any measure of benefit from it. But one thing that I'm realizing as we evolve as the church as a whole is that there are more Black women entrepreneurs that are pouring money into the coffers of the church than any other group. And so one of the things that I am realizing is that a lot of us are becoming more spirited as it pertains to our vocations and what it is that we have been called to do outside of the confines of the church. Many of us, we have a very broad pool of influence. I don't know how it happened, but one day I just had a Facebook page, and before I knew it, people from everywhere were flocking to my page, and I didn't know how to direct my energy and my traffic. And so what began to happen to me was that I was spread too thin. I was doing too many things, and I wasn't concentrating on the one thing that I knew was the thing that would bring me gain and would be the thing that would bring me the notoriety and the kind of crowd that I wanted. Okay. When I was learning that I was just, I appeal to so many people because I'm a homegirl, I'm an intellectual, I'm a preacher, you know what I mean? And so, I was attracting a whole lot of traffic, but I didn't know how to manage it. And it was turning my life upside down until I saw this woman of God. And one thing that she, really did was she asked those hard questions. I'm going to put up all of her information, and I'm sure that throughout this, she is going to, give you what you need to be able to contact her as a reference and things of that nature. But one of the things that she did was she helped me to streamline my purpose. She helped me to streamline what it was that meant the most to me. She helped me to figure out what I needed to do in order to get the results that I wanted. And she taught me that it was okay to charge people and to charge people the right price. Amen. So tonight, my first question to you is, when you hear a woman come to you, or when someone comes to you and they say, I have a great idea for something, but I don't know where to start, just give us a little insight into, what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it this way. I just want you to just come in your own way. I was going to ask a question, but I think it will be more organic if you just flow. So I'm just going to open it up and you jump right on in.
Awesome. Well, thank you for giving me the space to share the very essence of what it is that I help women do. I focus on women, multi-passionate women. So when a woman comes to me, usually what she comes to me with is, I have all these things that I want to do, right? She's like, but I can't make sense of them. So that tells me there's chaos. It's like, I want to do this, and I want to do this. Oh yeah. And I have this idea over here, and I have this idea over here. So one of the things I get them to do is hone in on what the real vision is. Okay. What's your vision? Like, what do you see? Like, what's the future? And it's really not about all these little pieces. It's about the bigger picture. So it's the vision, the what I want, what I see in the future, and what it looks like in the end. And then I sit down and go, okay, well, let's reverse engineer how you make that happen, because you can't get there with all of this, but you can create a journey, a path to get you where you want to go. So that's where I always start with vision, because that gives me insight, that allows me to see into the dreams and the goals and the desire and the purpose and the calling. That allows me to see into all of that without having to ask all of that.
Mm.
So I can ask that one question and curate everything that I need in order to help them get where they want to go.
Okay. And so then after, we get to that part, first of all, how do we identify passion? I mean, I think I have a process, that I use, but when you help someone identify and pinpoint the thing that they're passionate about, what are some key things that, will help us to identify this is the passion?
So my approach might be a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Because the nature of the work that I do, I'm looking for the profitable passion. I'm looking for the passion that you're going to use that's going to allow you to be profitable. Because here's the thing with profit, because I know church folk get squeamish when you start talking about profit and all, but how are you going to be blessed to be a blessing if you ain't making no money?
See.
You're blessed to be a blessing. So in order for you to position yourself to be a blessing to others, then you have to create something, to generate income, to generate money. And it's not about charging what you're worth. It's not, and I have a whole thing about that, but it's not about charging what you're worth anyway. Okay, I'm not going to go down that road because that's a whole nother thing. But so what I do is I get people to look at their passions, and I get them to decide to really go within themselves and figure out, and I'll tell you how I get them to do it, figure out which one are profitable passions and which one are hobby passions.
Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to identify that passion can have a duality, and it can be multiple. It can be something that has multiplicity attached to it. She first identified the profitable passion and then the hobby passion. Okay, we got that. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so then after that, once we begin to identify that, is it that we just run out now and we just go and have a big old photo shoot, and then we just go and hire somebody to put our favorite colors together and slap it on everything, and we call that, boom, we have a brand? I mean, what do we do next? I mean, because one thing that I've learned is that people feel like, first of all, people I don't think understand what branding is. So can we just discuss that?
Very true. Very true.
What is branding?
Very true. Branding, I mean, if you put branding in one word, and I like to distill it down and make it real simple. First of all, it's a process. Branding is a process. It's a process that you intentionally use to create the reputation that you want out in the world.
Wow. Did you hear that? Branding is a process that is used to be able to put out the reputation you want in the world. Got it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do you want people to perceive you? And be intentional about it. Because here's the deal. We all have some form of a brand. Most of us are branded by default.
Wow. Can you
Because
explain
Can
you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what I mean. I always use the example of being at a family event, like the family reunion. You know how we do, right? We're sitting around, you got the younger cousins here and the other cousins here, and and then the crazy cousin walks in,
Yeah. That's
or
branding.
the drama queen cousin walks in. That's their brand. That's their reputation.
So your brand is your reputation. Okay.
It is.
And
It's your
that was
reputation.
simple. That was simple, wasn't it, everybody? And so now what happened? Okay. And so, now that we have that and we know that it is something that's automatic and instant, how do we begin to structure that? What does that process begin to look like in its genesis?
So the way that I work through it with the women that I work with is we do a lot of inner work, mindset work,
Mm-hmm.
going in and looking at those dark, hard places that you are not paying attention to. So I don't jump to we got to get your colors, we got to figure out your logo and your photo shoot. Those are the absolute last things that we do.
Okay.
Because it makes no sense to jump out and get a logo and do a photo shoot when your heart is jacked up.
Woo! Jesus.
And people do it a lot. It doesn't make sense to jump out and get all those assets when you're not even clear about who you are and why you're in the world. When you're not clear about what it is that you've really been called to do. When you're not clear about how it is you really should be showing up. Because you get out there and you do all of that and you start showing up. You're one way online. People meet you in person and you're a totally different person because you got, you're behind the computer. So you have a different persona and they meet you in person and then you just mean as all get out. I mean, it happens all the time. So you're out of alignment. So you've created this thing that people have learned to become endeared to, that that they've experienced. But then when they meet you in another environment or in person, they have a totally different experience. Now you inject your stuff up.
Wow. And so the inner work is, okay, so, I'm going to, play the angel's advocate here. Well, I just want people to buy my stuff. I just want people to sign up for my stuff. I'm not trying to be friends with these people. So what does it matter about my inner me being okay? I have a service and I have a product and I want to sell it. I don't understand why their inner me even matters. What do you say to that person?
Well, I say a whole lot to that person, but and so, you know, um, good luck with that because because people really don't care about you and your stuff and what you are trying to get to them. People care about what's important to them. And when you show them that you care about them and what's important to them, then that's when they're going to spend money with you. Yes, you might be able to sell a $27 product with no problem. Yes, you might be able to sell a $50. Most people, they could probably spend up to $100 without really thinking about it. But when you start getting into higher levels where you're really going to generate income, people pause and they're like, hold up, wait a minute. I get lots of clients when they come to me for one-on-one work. I had one client that came to me a couple weeks ago. And I always ask people, like, how long have you been following me or whatever? This lady had been following me for 9 years.
Not 9 years.
9. She said, I've been following you since 2011. I never had a phone call with her. I never had anything with her. And she showed up in my inbox and said, what do I got to do to work with you? 9 years. And so what people are usually looking for is consistency. Sometimes at the initial connection, the timing isn't right. Maybe they don't have the resources. But if you're out there and you start acting willy-nilly, well, now you don't, and they have an encounter with you maybe at a lower price point, and it's not a good one, then they're like, oh, well, when it's time for them to spend the money, the big bucks, they go, well, no, I had a bad experience with her, so I'm not going to go with her. So you have to do that inner work. You really have to do that inner work because you have to show up true and authentic to who you are. The worst thing you want to do is create a brand that's not authentic to you. And I have seen people do it. It's exhausting. You can't keep up.
Yep.
People catch you on an off day and you just way off, right? So you have to be very intentional. You have to know who you are. You have to ground yourself in something that is authentic, that is real, that is your truth about who you are. And you got to do that work. You just have to. You just have to. If you're going to really make an impact in the world the way God wants you to make an impact, you're going to have to do that work.
Wow.
Because you're saying, well, I don't care about all of that. I just want people to buy my stuff. Well, that already says a lot about you and your mindset and where you are. And I'll take my little $27 and go somewhere else.
That's true. And so, okay, and so you said something very interesting. You said that, it took a person 9 years of following you to finally make that connection. How important, you said branding is a process. How important is timing in branding?
It's really important because when you are going through the process, you're going to encounter things along the way that could really jack you up.
Mm,
You're becoming intentional about what it is that you're creating, the reputation you want out in the world. Well, there will be things that could come along that could really mess that up. So the understanding your timing, like I always talk about knowing what season you're in.
mm,
You got to know what season you're in, even as you're going through the process of branding. You might be in a season where all you're doing is sitting back. Maybe you're doing that work. Maybe you're doing that inner work. That's the season that you're in. That's part of that process and journey you're in. So an opportunity might come to you that is spot on. That is like, oh my God, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for, but you ain't ready.
mm,
And I said it that way on purpose. You ain't ready because you're still doing that inner work. You're still, you're still um, making sure that nobody can trigger you when you're out doing what you've been called to do and you're out in the marketplace, when you're out amongst the people, you're making sure you're doing the work that so you don't get triggered because we have triggers.
mm-hmm.
And if we get triggered at the wrong place, at the wrong time, with the wrong people, we there's a price to pay for that. And that's why doing the work is so important. So knowing what season you're in, that opportunity comes depending on where you are in the process and what season you're in. You might not be ready for that opportunity. And you have to be self-aware enough to know, you know what, this is a great opportunity, but I'm not ready for it.
Wow. And it takes courage to do that because I'm going to be honest, there have been some things that I definitely qualified to do from a professional and credential standpoint. But
Mm-hmm.
as you said, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to be in a room with, where I'm the only Black girl in the room. And even though, what I have to say is valuable and insightful, I wasn't emotionally ready to handle being snubbed, being treated funny. And, one thing about me, my face is so expressive, whatever I think you gonna know. And so, I would find myself, a lot of times that when the camera would pan to me, my face would be like,
Right.
and I'm looking, very crazy because I just was not emotionally there. And then, as far as what you said about people having a different persona, I'm a witness to that as well. A lot of people, they are under the impression that I talk a lot. And when you meet me in person, I am not very talkative unless I am in the company of someone that I'm comfortable with, or I'm in an environment where I am there to talk. Okay. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
that for me, I had to learn, I was like, wow, these people want to be all over. And it's because I interact so well with
Exactly.
people online that their expectation is, oh, we gonna sit down and be girlfriends, and I'll be like, no, we not. I don't, and it took time because I had to understand that.
Right.
And so, going into the next of what I wanted to ask you, what happens when you are presented with that opportunity, you're really not prepared for it from a emotional standpoint, but it is something that you feel like it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. How do we evaluate the risk of doing that? Just to make sure that we don't blow it. We have FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Right.
When like, I know by no circumstance am I ready to do a TEDx talk. Okay, no way am I, in any way, any shape, any form. You've been doing this for over 20 years. You've been doing this for over 2 decenniums, 2 decades. This is your life's work. How do you prepare? How do you deal with that mentally? Have you ever had a situation where, you really wanted it? It was a once in a lifetime opportunity, but it was like, yeah, nah, I'm not ready. Like, how do we deal with that?
Well, here's one of the things is you want to have like a board of advisors that are really close to you that you can go to and bounce stuff like this off of. get their insight. You're not getting their permission. You're getting their insight. You're getting their wisdom, because usually these are people that are either going to, they're going to know you, really well. They're going to have some influence with you. So you're going to surround yourself with people like that. So when an opportunity like that comes and you're like, oh my God, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't even feel like I'm ready. And sometimes we think we're not ready and we are.
How do we know the difference?
What? Well, that's why you need other people around you.
Mm.
Because sometimes you can't see the picture if you're in the frame. So you go to, other people. Now, look, we already know that you pray and you talk to God. We already got that. We got that down pat. Okay. Because most of us use it as an excuse, but that's a whole nother story. But if you have people that you surround yourself with, you go to them and you say, look, here's this opportunity. This is like a once in a lifetime. I don't know if I feel ready. Now, again, you're not asking their permission. You're asking for their insight, their perspective. So then you still have to make a decision and go, okay, maybe I am ready. Or you know what? Maybe I'm not totally ready, but I just got thrown into the fire and I'm going to jump in and I'm going to do it. That's just an assessment you have to make for yourself. Because nobody can tell you, you know, don't do it. Don't, that's a great opportunity, but don't do it. But you have to make that assessment for yourself and look and go, okay, this really is a great opportunity. Is it really a once in a lifetime? That's the question you really want to ask yourself. Is it really a once in a lifetime? Because I'm a believer is if it comes around once, it can come around again.
Wow. Amen.
So it might be a shift in even how you perceive the opportunity. Whereas it's not once in a lifetime. It's, you know what, I was presented with the opportunity and maybe I'm not ready for it right now. I'm going to let it pass. And if it's really meant for me to do, it will come again.
Wow. Now, I have a question. We said, earlier that the first thing that we do when we get a great idea is we want to run out. We want to have a photo shoot. We want to, begin to, develop the LLC. We want to do the colors and all of that. And you said that is normally the last thing that you get to when you're dealing with somebody. Now, one thing I do, and I want to kind of get to that little piece of it, only because I'm trying to do this in a certain way to bring us back to an expected end tonight. When you're developing, your presentation items, one of the things that my soror, Dr. Michelle Kinney, she used to always say, you always invest heavily in your presentation items, because as you said, your brand is your reputation. So, like for instance, tonight before we got on, I was joking with you because I said, every night I kind of been in here in a t-shirt, and I might put something on, I might not. And then I thought about who was getting ready to be on tonight. And I was like, oh no, about 6:30, I got my life together. I was like, no, honey, this is Quarantine Quanisha, y'all. This wig, that's her name. Her name is Quarantine Quanisha. Me and Quarantine Quanisha, we're gonna put some pink moisturizer lotion. We're gonna find us some toner and some moisturizer, and we're gonna put some eyes and stuff on tonight because I am on with the icon herself, the iconic show. That is her calling card. Excellence is her calling card. What I want to know, what happens when you do not, or I'll ask this a better question. What happens when you just tear up your whole reputation and you're trying to start over and rebuilding and regaining trust in people?
Wow. That's a big question. And I'm going to tell you, you got an uphill battle. If you tear up your reputation with people, you dismantle trust that you've established, you kill your credibility. To some degree, people can be very forgiving.
Absolutely.
They really can. To some degree, people extend very subconscious grace to you. They just do, especially if, it seemed like that was like a blip, like that was like okay, wait, what? But there are things sometimes that you can do that just really totally kill your credibility, your trust, and everything. And I believe that the best way to handle that is to take some time away. You don't have to make no big giant announcement about it either. Some time away and do some soul work.
Mm.
Don't go live, don't post, don't do all of that while you're in it either.
Mm.
Because that's a mistake that we make. This social media culture that we have. Excuse me, I'm gonna take a sip of water.
Mm.
This social media culture that we have, we feel like we got to run to social media, and post about everything. Take some time away, do some soul work, get on the other side of it. Then come back, share the story, share the transformation, own the stuff. Don't act like it never happened, but own the stuff. There's a way that you can come back and you can reestablish your trust, start to reestablish that credibility, start to reestablish those relationships and connections, because it's a form of relationship. Even if it's just through social media, it's still a form of relationship. People think they know you for real, because they've been following you and they're experiencing you, and you've been visible, and you have influence, and you say things. I mean, you said things about me tonight that I had no idea that I've had that level of influence. I didn't.
Wow.
I
Okay.
knew I had some, but I didn't know I had that much, that I'm in your house.
Yes, you are. Right over my desk. Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, that blessed me so much. It really, really did. So, and we also have to remember that as people that are building reputations, that have influence, and we're representing the kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
that we have to take responsibility for things. And when we tear up our reputation, it's not just our reputation we've torn up. We've torn up the reputation of things that are attached to us, to things that we say we represent. So, and we have to take responsibility for that. So, taking time away, doing the work, being really brutally honest with yourself, having some people that you can um, surround yourself with, that are going to hold you accountable. I always say that they're going to hold your feet to the fire and hold your hand through the process.
Wow.
You know, so yeah.
What is the biggest mistake that um church folk and folks that's Black like this and not like this, what's the biggest mistake that we make in brand building from your observation?
I think one of the biggest mistakes that we make, I have a couple big mistakes,
Okay,
but
fine, go for it. Give it to us all. Give it all to us because we need help.
there are a couple big mistakes that they make, and I think one, jumping to the visuals first.
Okay.
I think that that's a big mistake, because you don't understand when you skip the strategy, which is mistake number two. When you skip the strategy, you don't understand how to use the collateral. You don't understand how to use it. You don't understand that when you put something out, it has no connection. It's not doing the heavy lifting for you like it could, because it has no strategy behind it. So you're just out there, you got this pretty logo, but what does it mean? What is it connected to? Why is it the way that it is? Why are you using those elements? Why are you using those colors? And it ain't about it being your favorite color. Now, if it's your favorite color and it goes along with your messaging, then that's fine. But some messages you can't use your favorite color with, because it just don't make no sense. Because there's theory, there's psychology behind every element that you use. And I know you know this, Dr. OJ.
I
Behind
do.
every element you use visually, there is a meaning behind it. I tell people all the time, don't put stuff in your brand that has no meaning or connection to anything.
Wow. Did you guys hear that? She said, don't put anything in your brand that does not have a measure of meaning or connection to you.
Because it has some meaning. So here's an example. I study luxury brands a lot because and here's why. The luxury brand space, they understand their customer better than anybody. I mean, they understand their customer and they know how to tell the story of their brands visually. So when you look at certain things, those things have meaning. Example, the Chanel brand. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The Chanel brand, they use a lot of Byzantine influence in their pieces. There's a reason. I want to know, does anybody know why Chanel uses that particular style in their brand?
Okay, well, I can tell you I don't, so I don't know if anybody else
That's
in the
fine.
comment section.
That's fine.
Uh-huh.
Here's why. Coco Chanel, who actually grew up as Gabrielle, was raised in an orphanage. It was a Byzantine orphanage. So
Wow.
a lot of the pieces that you see, especially in her necklaces, that's where the connection is. They're not just using that just because it's something to do. They're using it because it's a part of the fabric and the fiber of the story of the founder and the muse of their brand.
Wow.
And the reason why I like to use Chanel is because you're talking about a brand that was birthed out of one woman, which is why I talk about leveraging your personal brand into a profitable business. One woman leveraged her skill, her knowledge, her love, her fashion, her desire to turn the fashion industry on their heads, to move from using bustles and hoops to structured men's like apparel as the foundation, but making it feminine and flexible. So you're talking about someone who started there, whose brand has the value of their brand has increased all these years. They can charge all the money they charge for a Chanel purse, a quilted Chanel bag, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they understand the power of visuals. They understand the power of story. They understand all the different elements. Now, look, I mean, Chanel wasn't perfect. But when you read her story and the things that she dealt with and things that she struggled with and how she was devastated, there was a period in her time where she was doing what, and then she was devastated and she like took that time away that we talked about and came back at the height of her career. I think she was like probably 60 or so, maybe older. I can't remember. So putting those elements in your brand that have meaning, but you don't know that if you haven't done the work, if you haven't figured out the strategy, if you haven't done the digging and the excavating and the looking and going, okay, these are elements that I want to include in my visuals because it's connected to this. It can tell this story. It can do the heavy lifting. When I put it out there, it's not because it's pretty, it's because it's functional and effective.
Wow, it's so interesting that you say that because many of you know I'm a 2-time breast cancer survivor, okay? And one of the questions that I often get asked a lot is, well, why don't you, do stuff with breast cancer awareness, and why are you not, out there running for the cause and and doing different things of that nature? And one of the things that I tell people, because I find that a lot of church and spiritual people do this. Just because you went through it does not mean that that's your passion. Okay.
Exactly.
I'm not passionate about going to the chemo ward. I'm not passionate about wearing the pink ribbons, and I'm not passionate. Do I have compassion? Yes, I have empathy. I have a measure of regard for it being a part of my story, but it is not the thing that I choose to build who I am on top of. And so a lot of times, people feel like just because you were in domestic violence, that means that everything you have to have has purple ribbons and some measure of that particular element of your life being attached to it. And the reality of the matter is, like you said in the beginning, if you have not done the inner work to discover that this might be something that I'm really ready, to discard from my life, from a perspective of it, being something that I want everyone in the world to automatically think of when they see my face, then that, you're going to always find yourself in a position where you're going to be, first of all, reliving something that you may not, that may not be uncomfortable, that may be uncomfortable. And the reality is, just because everybody got out does not mean that everybody got healed. And so a lot of times, you said something, no branding while bleeding, no branding while bleeding. We cannot allow our stuff, because what did I start this off with? Your personal life is going to show up in your brand, good, bad, or indifferent. So if you're in a situation where this is your current thing, even though brands evolve, that's something else I learned from her. Brands evolve and they eventually mature and they grow with the times. There are going to be some things that are staple. Okay, there are things, that she's only mentioned, maybe 1 or 2 times on social media, but they ring in my head. Like, I know that Lucille Ball is her favorite. I know that, there are certain things, there are certain places that she frequents, certain smells there, and it's not something, that it's something that she constantly put up. But you have to understand, when people connect with you, they know what you like. Okay. And so, like, if you're a person that's around me, everybody knows, that there are just certain things that are indicative to me. And when people think of you, you want them to always have a good measure of understanding that, yes, this is something that this person went through, but it's not who she is. Every time you look at me, you don't think about breast cancer, even though because it's something that you can't avoid. One arm and hand is completely bigger than the other one by about maybe 4 or 5 centimeters. So it's not like it's something that is not constantly present with me. But when my face shows up on Facebook, that's not the first thing that's coming to your mind. Oh, she on here talking about breast cancer and recovery. The first thing you're going to do is say, what is she getting ready to say that's crazy today? Or, what is it that she getting ready to say? I mean, because that's what people know me for. And so, when you're looking, and I'm saying all of this to say, when the woman of God just said what she said, I want us to be honest about the fact, first of all, that all of our faces do not belong on stuff. All right. And the reason that I want to keep going back to this is because, you have people, oh, I want to be like Oprah. Okay, that's fine. But when Oprah started out, okay, her face was not on everything. Okay, she is on the cover of her magazine every month, and it is the O magazine every month, because now her face is the thing that identifies her. That's why she can go to Weight Watchers and be like, yeah, put my picture on the box of green beans, because people are immediately going to be drawn to her because of who she is. If nobody knows you, okay, and if you are, a person that does not have a consistent measure of something, even in the way that you dress. For instance, I can have a totally different look. My hair could be long one day, short the next, one color one week, one color the next. But if I am going to use myself, the figure, as the figurehead for something, there has to be a measure of consistency. That when people see me, that even if it's something that might be different, there is still something that is consistent about me as a person. Now, I'm going to say this. We are in an age right now, and I want your take on this, the selfies. All right. I know that we have to be out there in social media land, and we have to, give a good presentation. But can you just explain the effects of putting things out there that are not streamlined with the messaging that you're trying to get across?
Oh, yeah. You want to be, and then again, this goes back to why you want to do the work, why you want to look at strategy, because you'll start to filter things that you do, things you're putting out through that lens.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say, that I'm, the icon of branding, well, I can't show up raggedy.
Ever.
You know, I can't. You know, but it doesn't mean that I can't show up with no makeup on, or just maybe not. It doesn't mean, because then I can use that as a moment to say, because I always talk about imperfect action. So there is such a thing as imperfect action, but you can't be so far off that people are like, okay, wait a minute, I thought she was. Now they're confused. Now they're confused because I'm
And
like,
then it looks
wait a
like
minute,
a false narrative.
yes, exactly. So it's like, that's why you have to be very, very careful about the story you craft, the narrative you create, because, and that's why it can't be fake.
Mm-hmm.
So even in terms of, selfies and things that you're putting out, I remember there was a young lady. I actually did her branding course years ago. She was one of my influencers when it came to branding and how you show up. I mean, she was fly, she was fabulous, she was all that. And I absolutely loved her presentation and how she showed up. And I wasn't devastated, but I was like taken aback when she decided that she couldn't keep up with that anymore.
Mm.
She was like, I mean, and she would be rock star. She would do her she would do her trainings, and she would have on these fabulous dresses. I mean, she would look fabulous. And then she went like to the other extreme. She was like, I can't. And it totally dismantled what she had built, her following, everything. People got confused. Of course, I didn't hear it. You could see it.
Mm-hmm.
You could see it, because she had built this narrative that wasn't true and authentic to who she was. And she owned up to that afterwards. But that's what happens. So you build out this story that's not authentic to you, that isn't really a part of who you are. Now, I do believe in bringing people along on the journey with you.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe in that. I I believe, you're starting where you are, and people, you think about Oprah, you mentioned Oprah. She took us along with her on the journey from the radio station to the network. She took us along every step of the way. We were pretty much there, especially when she hit television.
Mm-hmm.
She was the talk show host. She lost the weight. She did this. She went up against, all the boys of daytime television. She beat them all. You know, she went through these different stages of her brand as it evolved. We watched it every step of the way. She brought us along. So back to your question, about creating a false narrative. That's why you have to be really clear about who you are and what story or narrative you're creating. And then you're because you're going to filter everything you do through that. You're
You
going
know,
to filter everything through that.
okay, so here's an example. Like, there are some people, they take 3-4 selfies a day. I mean, you log on their page, sometimes even their profile picture is just changed like once every 3 days, and it's like they're doing too much. How can you just explain to people why people put their pictures on things, and can you explain to people why logos and things of that nature are so important, and why things have to always kind of be indicative of who it is, and fall under that umbrella?
So logos. I'll talk a little bit about logos. Logos they represent what your brand is. It's the visual representation of what it is that you want to put in the world. I mean, Prince did it.
Mm-hmm.
Prince created a logo, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I know some Prince people probably like, what? I mean, it was a logo. It was a distinguishing mark that he created for his Prince brand. Now, he said, I'm changing my name. Well, he didn't change his name. He created a distinguishing mark, which is what it was. So what you create with the logo is you create um, visual recall.
Mm.
So when I see it now, of course, Prince has been gone for a few years, but when I see that distinguishing mark, that logo, who do I think of?
Him.
When I see the Nike swoosh,
Nike. Jordan.
no, it's Nike for sure. When I see the partially bitten apple,
Apple products. Mac.
I know it's Apple. But I also know with those symbols, with those logos, I also know the meaning behind them. I also have a feeling attached to it. So when you start talking about logo, you're talking about connection, you're talking about emotion, you're talking about feeling, you're talking about everything that people intentionally put into those logos that creates that when they see it. Because, there's always this argument about Apple and Android,
Yeah.
which I always have to come back and correct people and say you're talking about two different things. Because Android is an operating system, Apple is a brand, two different things.
Mm-hmm.
But people have emotional attachments to them,
Right. Like
right?
for me, I'm a slave to the brand. Apple, they got everything.
Yes, absolutely. I got 5 Apple products sitting right here.
So do I. Yeah. Okay. That's funny. So do I. Yes, absolutely.
Right? So, in terms of the logo, your logo carries it carries a lot of weight.
Okay.
It carries intention. It carries connection. It carries the message. It carries the narrative. It tells the story
With one glance.
with one glance.
Mm-hmm.
You look at it. You see the Nike logo and you think swoosh, you think Nike, you think Jordan, you think basket. Go down the list.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just think, oh, that's a logo. What are all the things that you can associate and attach that logo to? Now, in terms of people putting their face on stuff, um, that can be, how can I say, that can be, um, it depends. There's like no like straight answer on this one. So, for example, you mentioned Oprah and how she puts her face on her magazine. But here's the thing you have to understand about using your face on things. And it goes back to the very same thing I said about logo. Why are you doing it?
Come on. Thank you. Did y'all hear what she said? The motive. The Lord have mercy. Thank you for saying it. Thank you.
Yeah. Why are you doing it? You have to ask yourself that question. Now, if you're doing it for to build visibility around you, I mean, okay, I get it. I understand that, but you still have to understand the motive behind it. So here's the thing. When I used to do publish books, I was a book publisher for a while, and I used to tell my clients not to put their picture on the front of the book.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I would tell them, don't put your picture. I said, because you're looking at your book cover in a vacuum. You're looking at your book cover as if it's the only book cover that exists. But you take that book cover, you take that book, and you put it on the bookshelf with all the other books. So if you're writing a book about marketing and you put your face on it, you're not going to get the same traction is as if you put that, you put a different book cover on there that is pretty mainstream and universal, that says, that gets people excited about what's on the inside. People aren't excited about your face being on the cover of a book. They're just not, unless you have some type of recognition. So you got the big folks that do it. You got Joyce Meyer, you got TD Jakes, you got Joel Osteen, you got
Right.
all them folks, that put their picture on the book, which is fine. It is not the worst thing in the world, but understand why you're doing. What's the strategy? I'm a strategy girl, all day, every day.
Me too.
What's the strategy behind putting your picture on the cover of your book? if there's no strategy, if you just want to, if it really is just an ego moment for you, you might want to change your mind.
Right. And so then what do you say about people that put their picture on their business card and they put their picture, just on everything? Like, for instance, behind me, the only reason that my picture is there is because, first of all, it's my event. I'm normally the draw. And I wanted to make sure that I had, something that would draw the eye. Okay. And then I wanted it to be in the same color family as my book cover, Decennium Decisions, right? Now, if you look at this cover, you see the gears, and that's because it is something that is indicative of moving parts. And when you get the book and you read it, you will begin to understand, oh, that's why she has those blue gears on the book, and everything else surrounding it is the navy blue and the green. I worked it in. Now, this is my logo, right? And this is something that once this was always my logo, the OJ, right? But when I got my PhD, I threw that in there. And so I just built on top of what it was that I had. Now, when you see it, you'll know that it's me, because first of all, it's something simple and it's my name, but it's everything that I have is pulled together in a certain way. I think what I'm trying, when you put the pictures on the business cards, is that a good idea? When you put your picture on the mailing material, and when you're putting your picture on the cover of a book that has absolutely nothing to do with your life. Okay. Those are the things that, correct me if I'm wrong, but those are the things that to me indicate that there is something else that is going on. Because if you're advertising something that has to do with business, then you with bedroom eyes and you with all kind of stuff that doesn't even have anything to do with what it is that you're promoting, it comes off as if you're trying too hard. Now, does anybody out there in the world agree with me tonight? I don't have to be right. We're on with the icon herself, so she will shut me down if I'm wrong. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because, in the church circle, the Microsoft flyers gotta go. The flyers that you can make on your phone with word swag, but you're not using pixelated pictures and things that are right. Stuff that's going out there with spellings, things where, it's, you don't even have one uniform picture that you use for one particular thing and one picture that you use for something else. It really, you begin to become gumbo. And one thing about, brands is they are structured and they are intentional, like the woman of God said. If you're just out there doing stuff and going with the moment, I hate to say it, but nobody wants to see you that much. Okay. And one of the things that I'm serious, because I'm over it. And the thing about it is, if you're trying to present business and you want people to come to a business seminar, why do you have a Snapchat filter where you look like you got bedroom eyes, looking like you trying to have a man instead of a meeting? Okay. And those are the things that people do not understand, that detour things. The other thing is, pay somebody to write for you. Pay somebody to create and curate content for you. If you are not a person that is good with words, if you are not someone, that can speak well for yourself, because the one thing you did for me was you taught me how to remove myself out of the equation. Can you deal with that a little bit? Can you talk about that little piece? Because I've seen you teach on it before, but they don't know. So can you talk about removing you out of the equation in the midst of building your brand?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've had to do that personally. I've had to do that where I literally had to remove myself out of the equation, still allow things to move forward. I had a marriage that was falling apart, so I had to deal with the fact that that was happening, and I wasn't going to live that out in front of everybody. So I had to literally remove myself out of the equation. And it was that whole, okay, most people, my husband and I were separated 15 months and most people didn't know.
Yeah, I remember that.
I know you remember. And most people didn't know because I removed myself out of it and I still allowed the brand to evolve and do what it was doing. But I'm like, I have to take a step back because I can't bleed on the people.
Mm.
I can't bleed on the people. And there's a way to do that, and that's why you use some of the tools and things that are available, um, or you hire people to manage things for you while you handle and deal with that. And I had to deal with that. My marriage was like in shambles. We separated. I moved. A whole bunch of stuff happened. I moved to a whole nother state.
Mm-hmm.
A whole bunch of things happened. And the majority, and I'm talking about people that are close to me, like we've been connected for a long time. We don't talk every day,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't even know. So when I finally came and said something publicly, we were back together. And people were like, "What? When?" It was like, "You were separated when?" you know so there are times where you do have to remove yourself out of the equation, especially if you're dealing with things in your life that really need your attention and you don't want to bleed on the people. um you know um Removing yourself out of the equation when maybe you maybe the how can I say this? And it's not about the vision as much as it is about getting off course, getting off path. Sometimes we get off path.
Mm-hmm.
We get off the journey. We get off from where we're headed because we wind up, we're looking at everybody, we getting influenced by everybody, and now making gumbo. We're making gumbo because we're sprinkling a little bit of this in, we're dropping a little bit of this in, we're getting a little bit of this from here and a little bit of this from here, and then before you got all of these folk stuff, and you're lost in the sauce. Can't nobody find you, right? So you have to know to say, you know what, I need to take a step back. I need to let this machine just kind of work on its own for a little while, but let me take a step back, let me assess why I'm doing what I'm doing, why am I showing up this way, what's happening, what's going on. I mean, every now you got to do a self check.
Right.
You got to do a self check. You got to do a heart check. You really, really do.
Since you brought it up, recently, the beginning of the year, end of last year, I noticed that your branding, in your own personal brand, took a very interesting turn. And I remember you saying that, you kind of had to scrap a lot of things and just take it back down to zero. Okay. Can you go into, what brought you to that place of taking something that quite frankly already looked amazing to us, but just taking it down and then just rebooting it all over again and making it even more fabulous?
Okay, so I'm guessing are you talking about the time where I took my brand and I like changed my colors and stuff like that? Are you
Yes.
talking about that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that was I'm going to tell you what that was influenced by. It was influenced by the fact that there was a young lady who reached out to me all the way in another country, like totally another country. I think it was Australia. She reached out to me and she was asking me about who does my graphics and stuff like that. And Dr. LJ, I do my own graphics.
Yep.
And she said, I want you to create graphics for me that look like yours.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, well, this is interesting.
Very.
So, me being the person that I am, I just listened, and that was pretty much the end of that conversation. We didn't have another conversation anymore after that. And then I saw some of her things that she was putting out, and it was the exact it
Wow.
was the same it was the same attempt. I'll say that. It was
Wow.
the same attempt. And that really bothered me a whole lot. And I literally subconsciously decided that I was going to change my branding. And I didn't even realize I was doing it because of that. Because my brand has a very distinctive look.
It definitely does.
I use like this luxury red rose effect on it, and I use black and white and gold and stuff. And it's not something that you see a lot from people that do what I do. You know, because typically everybody in the industry looks the same, which drives me nuts.
Crazy.
So I subconsciously shifted my brand. I'm like, I dismantled everything. And it was out of, I would, some type of like internal turmoil around the fact that someone had basically tried to copy my visuals.
Now I have a question, and I'm so glad that it went there because, and before I ask this question, if you are in this comment section, I want you to if you're interested in listen, I'm just going to ask it. How do you deal with people who steal your concepts? I'm going to bring this up, and I don't know if you remember this, but there was a time when I was on Facebook where people were literally taking my statuses, okay? And they were literally taking my name off, putting it up there. One did I do an annual birthday post that I'm working on right now. And she literally that said things I've learned at 40. The girl literally took my entire post. Does anybody out there remember this?
I
Said
remember it.
things that I have learned at almost 40. Put it up. I went to her page. When I tell you it was her page was 95% me. The only thing that was different was her picture and her name. Literally. And I was livid. I mean, I sought an attorney, and it was so bad that I was like, I'm shutting my Facebook page down. I'm tired of going through this. This is crazy, you know. And I mean, I was having all kinds of whatever. And then from a spiritual perspective, it was like, well, you know what, Angel, you know, you have knowledge from God, and all wisdom comes from God. So it's not really your intel anyway. You're kind of the vessel and the conduit. But I was like, and I'm gonna be honest, I was like, well, damn it, then I don't want to be the conduit no more. And I mean, I literally said it like that. I know y'all say, oh, she on here cussing. No, I'm just telling you what I told God. Like, I was angry, okay, like Incredible Hulk angry. And it was happening a lot. It wasn't just one person. And you know, it would happen in waves until it just got to the point where I completely just stopped posting stuff on Facebook for a long time. Like, if you weren't living off the remnants of what was up there, you wasn't getting nothing out of me. And then I just got to a point where it was like, am I gonna just keep going through this, you know, or am I gonna do what my mentor taught me, and that is procure my own internet real estate? In layman's term, get your own website, control your own content, curate your own stuff, okay? Because, you know, and I want to ask you about that too. But first, I want to ask you, how do we deal with this? Because it is not just me. There are people on here right now in the comment section. And if you've been a victim of this, can you say, yeah, I've been victimized? It's me. I'm one of the victims. How do we deal with this? Is it something that we should look at from a place of, well, you know, imitation is the highest form of flattery? Or do we have a right to be pissed? Or is it just something that we got to charge it to the game because it just comes with the territory of being in this environment?
I think it's a mix of things. I definitely think it comes with the territory. I think it comes with, I mean, and we're, you know, social media is a social experiment.
Okay.
You know, it just is. So, you know, because it's a social experiment from the standpoint of human behavior. And I know you get this. It's a social experiment around, you know, how people how people show up, how people act, what people do. You just sit back and watch the craziness all day long, you know. So I think there's some of that's just inherent to the fact that the type of environment it is, the social media platform. Now, I also think that you should be very wise, that you should be very prudent in terms of your intellectual property, because that's what it is. And if it really is truly your intellectual property, then you should have things in place that you can go to an attorney and say, that you could go to an attorney or have an attorney, have your assets protected, have things, make it really clear that, and there's some things, and here's the other piece to that. Some things should not be on social media. They should be in a book.
Woo! So that was just a sharp rebuke to all of you all who use your Facebook page to do what it is that God told you to do, which is write a book. So yeah, she did that. That wasn't me. I don't have nothing to do with that. I just work here. Okay.
But it's the truth. We shortchange ourselves, then we get mad when somebody does a quick copy paste, when that should have been put in a different medium. So now when you start to put that out, people look at it and go, well, she took that from so and so because I read it in her book. And here's the thing. It is so prevalent. From high ups all the way. There's this guy. I'm not going to say his name because people might know who he is. I'm not going to say his name, but he's like a really popular, like really, really popular, like motivational, inspirational dude. And there is a lot of chatter that most of his content is not his.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yes, girl. Yes, I heard all about it.
Right. So there are people that, they're just out there curating. I mean, and a lot of stuff that people say is regurgitated anyway. They got it from Napoleon Hill and Norman Vincent Peale and every other person,
Aristotle, okay, come on.
Jim Rohn, everybody, Aristotle,
Yeah.
all of those, so they're just regurgitating. I mean, they've built multi-million-dollar brands off of other people's stuff. But use wisdom. Use wisdom. Get a intellectual property attorney that you should have on speed dial if needed. But also know that maybe you don't write a whole something other. Maybe you write it somewhere else and you put a link to it, and then people go read it over there. Or just send it to, of course, there's no 100% way to keep people from stealing your stuff. Like I said, it's just inherent. It's inherent to the, to your positioning and your influence in the marketplace.
Okay.
So there are, so people are gonna, they're going to take part of your stuff, they're going to take it and reword it, they're going to do a whole lot of different things, kind of with it. But the third piece to this is being like, well, okay, just because they use the words doesn't mean that they understand the intention, the spirit of it. They don't know the place it comes from. Like, I talk a lot of people copying your stuff. Like people can copy what they on the surface. And that's what I had to realize, because eventually I went back to, like, my branding, my visuals I have now. I went back to what I originally had, because somebody told me, they were like, that mustard and teal is like, no, thank you. But anyway, um, um, so they, it's like, just on the surface, they're duplicating what they see, but they can't duplicate the story behind it. They can't duplicate the intention behind it. They can't duplicate the essence of what it brings. They can't duplicate that. So eventually it doesn't work anyway.
And then I want to say this as well. I'm going to be honest, when you said things should be in the book, for a long time, I was one of those people where I was literally writing a book on Facebook. And one of the things that I have learned is this: procrastination leads to plagiarism. Now, what do I mean when I say that? There are some of us that God has given us something, or we have had a witty invention or an idea that we have sat on for years. Okay. We've had it. God has given us the plan for it. We have sat with people. We have strategized about it, and we never implemented it. And then when you look up, now somebody is doing the exact thing that you were supposed to do. And now you want to fall out and be mad with them. No,
Now you want to be
be thou
mad.
mad at yourself. I'm going to say it again. Be thou mad at you, because they didn't steal anything. You just allowed that thing to be forfeited. And so now, one way or another, God's will and his information and his concept has to get into the earth realm. And how does it get here? It gets here through us. It gets here through people. And so when you're sitting there and you're saying, dog, I knew I should have did that. Well, you had it for 4 years. And then you want to get mad when the person is getting the shine and the person is getting all of the accolades. And what will happen is your procrastination will make you look like a plagiarist, because then you want to come behind afterwards. And now you want everybody. See, I said it first. It's not about who thought about it first. It's about who got the pattern. It's about who's the one that secured things the right way. The other thing that this woman of God taught me is, listen, stop doing stuff and just thinking, oh, it's covered and protected. She just told us we need to have an attorney. I'm tired of y'all talking about my attorney is Jesus. He's a lawyer in a courtroom. No, you need to get a real lawyer, okay? That way, if somebody rip you off, you can go in the courtroom and get your money. Because there's a lot of you all, you have stuff out there. And the other thing, there's so many lessons I've learned from her, and I don't want to keep her here all night, but can you just talk about premature releases? Can you just take us back to that? Because that was the first lesson I learned from her. Can we just talk about just saying stuff too quick, doing stuff too quick, announcing stuff too quick?
So announcements.
Mm-hmm.
Announcements.
Okay.
I don't totally understand the fascination with making announcements on social media in particular. So, there's nothing wrong with an announcement if you have a strategy behind it. So one of my clients, I've worked with her on and off for a good while. She was always out there running her mouth, telling her stuff. And I would tell her, please stop talking so much. Stop talking so much. Stop telling people, and like one of the announcements that really get my goat, and I myself had to challenge myself to even not do it, is that stay tuned post. Okay, so you've put your idea out in the atmosphere, in the world, and now you're telling people to stay tuned.
Okay.
That's not a strategy.
Well.
And you've given other people enough time to come in and scoop it and release it before you even get a chance to.
Did you hear what she said? All right.
So I know the excitement behind that, but that's where you have to start to use discipline. And you have to go, you know what? It's not time yet. It's not time. I don't have a system for creating the buzz that I need to buzz. If you're going to make an announcement, attach it to something, put it on a schedule, make it a part of a bigger vision, a bigger strategy, not, oh yeah, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. So stay tuned. I'm working on this thingy. So stay tuned. And somebody's like, oh, really? Oh, let me see. Let me look into that. And they're like, oh yeah, I could do it. Like I've had people like had that happen to, that happened to them. Actually, it happened to me. I shared an idea that I had with someone that I was going to do, and they did it. And now I'm like, I'm not going to do it because now I'm going to look like a copycatter, and that ain't happening. So, anything, like I have an idea for a number of things that I want to do, but I write it in a book. I tell my husband. And I had to learn how to do that. It's not something I had to learn how to do that. I had to learn how not to, talk about that. Oh, stay tuned. I had to learn how to have discipline around the concepts and ideas that God had given to me. Now, the other thing I had to learn though is not to sit on it for 5 years.
Right. Or to be so inundated with so many good ideas at one time that you drop the ball on all of them.
On
And
all
that
of them.
often happens to people who are highly gifted, or,
Yes, it does.
It's, I tell people often, being good at a lot of things can be a blessing or it can be a curse if you do not understand management.
Yes.
Because one thing I've learned is that a lot of the people who I feel like, oh man, the world should know who they are. The reason why they're not there is because, one, they just don't have the team.
Right.
And you need a team with your brand. I mean, period. I don't care if it's church. I don't care if it's business. You need a solid team. You need people who are going to, get on the same page as you and to really see things through for you when you cannot see them through for yourself.
Yes.
And then when you are a person that is good at a lot of things, or you're a person that has a lot of good ideas going on simultaneously, you have to fight like heck against that ADHD and that ADD. It's real. And I tell people, when you are very gifted, that is something, listen, that is a spirit from hell. And I'm telling you, as a clinician myself, someone who deals with it and someone who also, deals with Asperger's syndrome. I'll share a little story. Many of you don't know this about me, but my uncle is a man named Christopher Priest. He is the first Black comic book writer in the world. He is the man that you see behind Black Panther. He is the man that you have seen behind Superman, Captain America, Quantum and Woody. The list goes on and on. And I come from a family that is extremely gifted. My mother is gifted. She is a person that can look at something and recreate it at the drop of a dime. Okay. Now, the reason that I went there is because all of us are writers. Okay. And one thing I can show, if I showed you something in my office right now, I have 4 piles of paper all over the place. I know what they mean, but if you walked in here and tried to figure out what it was that they meant, you would have no idea what you're looking at. Now, I have had winning my uncle let me know. He said, I remember getting fired from a job as a writer at DC when I was freelancing, where I was literally in the middle of a trilogy. And I got so discombobulated because he also deals with Asperger's syndrome that I could not finish, and we had to pass it on to another writing and editing team. Not because he wasn't good, but because he had so many other things going on. He was dealing with something where he had a new concept. He had just finished a novel. He had started helping Ryan Coogler with some things, for the setup for the manuscript that you see on the screen for Black Panther. And it was just turning into a whole situation. Now, the reason that I'm telling you this is because when you are a person that is full of a lot of ideas, you have to learn how to trust people. I want to say this again. You have to learn how to trust people. And then you also have to learn that if you're not good with seeing things all the way through to the end, that you have people that are around you that know you well enough to help you finish things. Okay?
Yes.
So that you don't look like you're unintegral, or you don't look like you're blowing people off, or you don't look like you're just a whole mess. Because the one thing that I'm hoping that if nothing else comes out of this Decennium Decisions book is that those of us who are behind schedule and those of us who, find ourselves in a lot of incomplete situations understand that it takes time. That's why I built the premise around a 10-year span. A decennium is nothing but fancy word for decade, okay? And one of the things that I do is I let you know you can go from a GED to a PhD in 10 years, okay? If you know how to process, if you know how to effectively plan. And if you're building a brand, listen, she said it does what? It evolves. It's a process. That means that everything doesn't have to go down in one day. And you know what? You have to also learn how to be mature enough to let go of help on different levels. Okay, there are some people that will be with you forever. But then there are some people, listen, the graphics that they gave you in the beginning might have been dope. They might have been the world to you. But as you evolve and as you begin to grow into the greatness that is you, you have to be able to say, yeah, it served me well on this level without feeling obligated and making you feel bad about this is good, but this dude, he gets it. He gets what I want. He gets my concept. He makes me look good. Are y'all all right tonight? Because that in and of itself is valuable when you're building a brand. The other thing I want to say about when you are a person that has a lot going on, you have to really begin to be pragmatic about certain things. It's okay to pick the thing that's going to make you the money right now and get back to the thing that can be picked up, that is the hobby later. We are in a pandemic right now, and I want your opinion on this. The work that I do is people. Right now, I can't be around people like that. Okay? How do you evolve in your brand in the midst of crisis that you cannot avoid?
Yeah, that's good. How do you evolve with your brand in the midst of a crisis? And this is again, and this takes me all the way back to why when I work with multi-passionate people, in particular, women in particular, but this is why strategy is so important. Because when you're building a brand, what I teach people to do is build an ecosystem. I teach them how to build something that allows them to pivot at any given moment. So I was talking about pivoting before pivoting became a thing.
Yes, you were.
Right? Because you build this ecosystem that allows you, because you can be at a different season at any given moment. It doesn't even have to be a pandemic. It could be anything that comes along. And you're like, you know what? I'm not able to deliver this way anymore. So let me shift over this way, right? Because I have these multiple streams that I have coming in, and I can shift this way and bump up the volume, if you will, on this thing over here. So it's really important to lay that out in the beginning. Now, if you haven't laid it out in the beginning, there's still room for you to, to find a way to shift and to pivot, but you just have to figure out what it is and do it quickly. Today, not long before I got on with you, Dr. OJ, I was going through my emails and I saw this email from Panera Bread.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, it's Panera Bread. This is what got my attention. They said, we'll deliver you groceries.
Panera Bread?
My reaction exactly. So I opened up the email so I could read it. What Panera is now doing, now, mind you, Panera Bread, you go, you get your soup, you get your salad, you get your sandwich, you get your cookie, you get your bread, you get your cake, whatever, right? You get your salad. What they're doing is they're basically taking all the ingredients that they use to make their sandwiches, to make their salads, the stuff you can buy at the bakery, the breads. They're taking all of that and making it so that you could literally shop with them to buy those things.
Wow. Now that's ingenuity.
Talking about shifting. So it's like, okay, we're in the middle of a pandemic. People are now not going out to eat at, in restaurant for sure. They might be calling, picking up. I'm sure they experienced a significant drop in their revenue. They looked for other ways. You have other profit centers in your brand. You just have to find them. You have other ways to generate income. You just have to find them. You can go and take and curate all the lives or all the posts or all the videos you did, turn it into some type of book or something, and you can have a book. You could turn it into a course. You can turn it into I could tell you 10 different ways off the top of my head that you could take something you already have, repurpose it, and make money from it.
And see, this is the thing that I tell people: if you can post, you can publish. Because we're in a world right now where we have something that years ago people did not have, and that's called access.
Yes.
Now you can
Yes.
take your own picture. You don't need a
Yes.
photographer where you got to pay him to have, the watermark removed and permission to use it. I mean, right now, listen, we have a measure of access that we have never seen.
Yes.
And just, and as long as we have been on this planet Earth.
Yes.
And that's why I'm going to say this, and I don't know why I feel led to say this, but I'm going to say this. A lot of you all, you have to develop a team. Somebody just write team. Somebody say, I'm going to buckle down and I'm going to develop a team. Because you know what you're doing? The brand is not even the issue. You don't have the hands and feet that you need to get things done. And I know that a lot of times we shy away from not wanting to give our babies and our content and different things to people, but you have to learn that sometimes you just have to talk things out to the right people, and then you have to trust that they have your best interest at heart enough to see it through. And then when they bring it back, what you can do is say, fix that, remove that, put that there, translate it that way, and it's done. And now you're moving at a more rapid speed. The reason that Panera Bread can do and they can pivot like that is because now there is an issue with their workforce. And so now they're looking at different ways to stay afloat as a company, so that they just don't have to shut down completely, like we see, who is it, JCPenney, and there's another restaurant now that had to close down and some other things. The reason why is because the way that that business is being done right now is something that we have to be, flexible about in our mind. And we cannot be so staunch in, saying that it has to be done this way. One of the beautiful things about a brand is nobody has ever done what you've done. And so you might have tools and you might have blueprints and some templates, but everything that you do is something that you create on your own. So there is no wrong way.
Right.
You can't be afraid to say, I'm going to move and I'm going to try to translate things differently. Because the one thing that I want to say, and can you speak to this one, God? Can you just speak to this one point? And I promise I'm not going to hold you hostage no more. But can you speak to this one thing? Can you break that mindset that says, because Susie is doing what it is that I want to do, that I can't do it? Let me tell you something. God is vast, okay? There's a whole lot of people that preach, but the reason that I have people on with me tonight is because I'm me. And there's something about me, there's something about you that causes people to be drawn to you. Don't stop and listen. If God told you to make red lipstick, make red lipstick. Okay, if red lipstick is your passion, she got on one color red tonight, I got on another color red tonight. Two people somewhere just made money and they sell the same product. Can you just speak to that part of that? Can you just encourage somebody?
I really, really can. And I keep saying I'm going to find another example, and I try to use luxury handbags, but it just doesn't, I don't think it has the same effect as when I use hamburgers.
Okay.
Because when you think about the idea that someone is already selling something that you want to sell, let's look at hamburgers. McDonald's sells the Big Mac. Burger King, the Whopper. It's the same thing, but their burger is flame broiled. So they add their distinctive spin on it. Five Guys sells burgers. Carl's Jr.'s sells burgers. Wendy's sells the old-fashioned burger. They're all selling burgers. But every burger place, every fast food place has a following, has an audience, has people that like the way they do it. They're like, no, I want to go to McDonald's because I like their golden arches. I don't know. Or I want to go to Wendy's because they use real hamburger meat, I guess. I mean, or they go to Wendy's because they like the fact of Dave Thomas and he looked like a wholesome man. You understand what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, they're all selling hamburgers. but they're selling their version. They're selling it their way. Okay, they're giving you their experience. So you go to McDonald's, you got the Golden Arches, you got Ronald McDonald, you got the Playhouse, you got all of those things. Okay, you go to Burger King, they got the King, they got the Flame Broil Burger. They have their unique spin on the very same thing, hamburger. So I use that as an example because I think people can really grasp that really easy. Just because someone else is doing what you want to do has nothing to do with you. It really doesn't. Matter of fact, when a fast food restaurant is going to like figure out where they're going to go, they go and use the studies that the other fast food restaurant did to figure out if it's viable. I mean, they use the data.
Exactly. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you know what? We all bring something significant. And I think that a lot of people, the reason that they're intimidated when it comes to doing what they see someone else doing is because they feel intimidated because they do not understand the measure of significance that they themselves have. And so when you don't feel like what you're contributing is as significant as somebody else, you're going to automatically make yourself the underdog in a situation where you can choose to prosper. You have Kylie Jenner, okay? She made a ton of money. Do you think that stopped Rihanna from saying, I'm getting ready to start Fenty?
Right.
There are a lot of people out here who are branding experts, life coaches, you name it. Just do what it is that you are called to do. Because when you focus on, you see, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, when you walk in the spirit, you don't mind the things of the flesh, okay? And so that lets you know that when your focus is on one thing, you don't even have time to worry about all of the flesh things because you're focused on the fruit. If we would focus on the fruit and not the flesh, we would find ourselves in a position where we win. And then you also have to understand that your competitor, listen, they can become your colleague overnight. There's a way that everybody can make money in this thing together. Listen, mobile ain't gonna shut down. Shell not shutting down.
Exactly.
We have to really begin to restructure the way we look at things, especially as African Americans and especially as women. Because you know what? When you unite with another woman, when you unite with another person that is the same hue as you, as Jay-Z would say, there is a different level of significance and power that comes out of that. I would never not speak or not have anything to do with somebody just because they might have came out with something that looks like it has the same concept. As a matter of fact, I'm buying your book too. I'm not going to be a person that, well, you know what, I'm not going to be friends with that one because are we crazy? I mean, we are grown. We are in a world where we are trying to make a difference and we're trying to profit while we're doing it. But if we have a closed mindset, we're never going to get anywhere that we're supposed to be, because you're looking at a person like, oh, well, that's my competition, where if you pick up the phone and call them, they might be an open book to resources, vendors, graphic design artists. They may be willing to share resources because they say, you know what, I see the angle that you're coming at, and you know what, I don't have low-hanging fruit. I'm clear about what my objective is. And the other thing that I want to say is this: when you are not clear about your objective, everybody is going to look like competition to you. Because when you do not do that inner work and you do not have an understanding of this is why I am doing what it is that I am doing, you're going to find yourself always trying to chase somebody else's shine instead of just relaxing and saying, you know what, this was my objective. My objective has been met. I don't care about anything or whatever else anybody else has going on. I just want to ask you this. If you can just leave us all with one thought tonight. And for those of you that are on, I put her Cash App up. I of course, blessed her. We want to make sure that we want to send her to at least a nice little lunch somewhere. You know, she got good she poo-poo taste. So I sent her something just the love on her and all of
I
that.
appreciate you.
Tonight, I put her Cash App up. She didn't ask me to do that, and I want to encourage you. I also put her website up. Right now, she is doing something where if you're interested in starting a podcast, she breaks down everything from equipment to the different platforms. She gives you the pros and the cons of each. Listen, if you're on here, you need to tap into that resource, okay? And the reason why is because I don't know about anybody else, but here in New York, I'm just comfortable until about 2021, mid 2021. Ain't nobody gonna see me in person. No, I don't want nobody cootie. Because I am, listen, so if you're a person, we don't want to hear your feedback in the mic, and we don't want to have to strain to see you. You know, if you're looking, you know, to upgrade what it is that you're doing, you know, and learn how to reach different people and different audiences, or if you're someone that is saying, you know what, I have a ton of good ideas, I need somebody to help me streamline all this stuff, go to www.cherylpullins.com. Her website is also in the comments section. Go to her page, peruse. Her blog is a wealth of knowledge. And, you know, a lot of times people, they don't give you information without charging you for it. Listen, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to be quite frank, I can't even afford what it is that I want to do with her yet. And I believe that God is going to bless me to be able to do that, because he sees that, you know, this is a sincere place in my heart that I want to get to. So I believe one day it's going to happen. But everything that I've learned from this woman, I gleaned it. Somebody say glean. See, Ruth, listen, they dropped handfuls of purpose after they went and got all the stuff. And Ruth said, honey, I ain't mad. I'm going to come, and wherever y'all drop on the ground, I'm going to pick it up. So whatever it is that she's been doing for her playing clients, and she's, you know, said, you know, I'm going to drop a nugget today, or I'm going to do a live. I jump on those free lives. I jump in her, you know, in the, she has a group that she started that, you know, you can ask to be a part of that. And she gives us tools and jewels every day. To help us, you know, folks that, you know, we still, you know, we still in the good times building. We ain't living with the Jeffersons yet. We still over there with Walona and them. We not with Tom and Helen yet. She got stuff. She got something for every price point. Okay, so please make sure you go to her page and support her. Listen, what can you leave us with tonight? What's one thought that if we have to sum everything up, and something that you would want us to think of and ponder, you know, as these coming months come, what would be that thought?
I think one of the biggest things that I want to leave people with is to really tap into and understand why God has them here in this time, in this season. It's like, Lord, you know, what do you want me to do in the world that's going to bring about change, that's going to impact lives, that's going to represent you in an incredible way? Because we really are here as his representatives. So when you think about your brand, that's what it is. You're here as a representative of the kingdom, you know, and how you brand that and how you show up with that is what's really important. So, you know, I really want you to think about that. And I also want you to think about the person you have to become in order to deliver on that. Who do you have to become? So when you go to my website, you're now, it's probably looks a little different, Dr. OJ, because I took, you know, I took a lot of my stuff down because I'm preparing for the next level.
Wow.
I'm preparing for the next level. And I think that's what I want people to understand. What's your next level and how do you prepare for it? Who do you need to become to be able to even function on that next level? Everybody wants to talk about going to the next level. Everybody wants to talk about, you know, it's a new season. Everybody wants to talk about that. But who do you have to become? Who do you have to be able to function and operate in that new season, on that next level?
Wow. Wow.
And that's what, if I want to leave you with anything that you can look at and say, you know what, I need to figure out, what does my next level look like, and who do I need to become in order. There's a reason why I went from saying being iconic to becoming iconic, because it's a process. And it's the process of who do you have to become in order to deliver, in order to show up as the grandest and greatest expression of who God created you to be.
My
Because
God.
a lot of us, we aren't. We slacking. We slacking. We faking. We faking it till we make it. That's a whole nother topic. And that's not what God wants for us. He wants us to be able to walk in the fullness of who he created and designed us to be, the greatness that he bestowed on us, the power that he has within us. And we are not doing it.
My Lord.
We are comparing ourselves to other people, which is to your point of what you were talking about in terms of competition. We compare ourselves. That's why we have such a challenge with other people. We look at ourselves and say, well, oh, well, they're already doing this and they're doing that, or whatever they're doing, and I'm not good enough, or I don't have what they have. You're comparing, you're just getting started, to their 10 years in the game.
Wow. Jesus. Woo. Wow.
And all of that stuff affects you, and it affects how you show up. So then what you do is you go, okay, well, I'm a take a step back. I'm a shut down. So use this time, use this season to really think about, who do I need to become in order to really walk in the greatness that God's bestowed on me, that God's planted on the inside of me, the destiny, the purpose. Who do I really need to be? You know, maybe I was watching a video the other day and I was like, oh, Lord Jesus, help me. And the guy was saying, he was like, you've already given into weakness when you hit the snooze button in the morning.
Whoa.
Right. That's what I said. Whoa. He's like, you already given into weakness. You hitting the snooze button when your alarm goes up. That extra menial 10 minutes you're taking away from your being able to step into purpose first thing in the morning, put your feet on the floor and get ready for purpose. But you hitting the snooze button. He's like, you've given in. That's your first thing you've given in to weakness, or to giving in to not showing up the fullest expression of who you were created to be over 10 minutes worth of sleep.
Mm.
And I thought that was powerful, and it really resonated with me. And it just so happens that morning I had hit the snooze button 3 times. So
I think some people are on permanent snooze, and I can say I'm one of those people that have been guilty of that.
you
Listen,
know
I want to just ask, does anybody tonight, before we go, does anybody have a question for her before we go? I know that we're probably on like a 10-second delay, so it might take a little moment to pop up, but does anybody have a question that is brand specific for her tonight? Does anyone? I'll just give everybody about 20 seconds to try to get it through. I so enjoyed you tonight. I just thank you again
oh, I
so
love
much
being
for
here tonight,
for
hanging
just,
out with you.
yes. And I mean, I know I kept you hostage a little bit longer, but
That's
I
all
just
right.
wanted to make sure that I got all of the juice. I got all of the good stuff out of you tonight. Again, her
I
website
love it. I
is
love
there.
it.
Does anyone have a question? Okay, I guess everybody knows everything, huh? So that's fine. Well, if you don't want to ask a question in the comments, please make sure that you go to her page. Now, she might not accept you on her personal page, but there is definitely room at the cross for you on the iconic page. Okay, and there is definitely information and resources that are on her website, www.CherylPullins, no G, just an NS.com.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
you too can become iconic. Listen, I thank and bless God for each and every one of you tonight for hanging out with us. I told you that it was going to be business. I just want us to all be well-rounded. Everybody that you see in back of me are people that, in some way, shape, or form have played a part in my life. This woman more so than others. And I'm just so honored again that she was on with us tonight. Again, we'll be here tomorrow, same time, same place. Tomorrow, we have none other than Prophetess Joanna Bruchette. She's going to come come and be with us all the way from Carlisle, Pennsylvania. It is going to be a blast. So I hope that I will see you back in the place tomorrow. And you know what we say around here? Your next level is not in the pew. Your next level is inside of you. Reach down and grab grab it, because over here we don't trend, we establish. We love you and we bless and thank God for you. Thank you again, woman of God. Have a
You
good
are welcome. It was such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. It's amazing to have spent this time with you, and I'm so grateful for it.
All right. Well, thank you. We love you and know that we're praying for you. See you all tomorrow, and make sure that you go and follow her. God bless and good night.
Good night.